What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston Podcast Network. Chris Forsberg here, flying solo again today because I got a couple more interviews from Media Day that I want to bring to you. We got a chance to catch up with everybody on the roster that day, but got a chance to sit down with Brad Stevens, talk about just the whirlwind summer and what's ahead. Then got a chance to talk to Marcus Smart about elevating to the starting point guard and getting that extension. I thought they both had some really interesting things to say. Before we dive into that, I do want to just we've had a couple of days here at camp, 3 days of training camp, and able to watch a little bit of the action. The media really hasn't seen much, if we're being honest. We only, I think we saw maybe one possession of 5-on-5 work on day 2. Every other day, it's really been just conditioning drills or shooting, which is still interesting. At least we're back inside the Auerbach Center. But it's been hard to glean a little bit of like what's going on and, maybe how the rotation is starting to shuffle out. I think we're going to have to wait till the preseason games next week to really get a better gauge on that. But, there have been some hints based on what people have said in their post-practice interview sessions. And one of them the other day that really stood out was that Ime Udoka saying that Al Horford is making a huge push to be a part of the starting lineup. Now, this is a little bit surprising to me because I thought, a lot of the talk has been, how do you accentuate the talent of the Jays? And to me, if you're going to play Rob Williams as your starting center, then your power forward or, another wing that would be out there probably has to be someone who can shoot, spread the floor a little bit. Part of the reason I wasn't particularly bullish on Josh Richardson winning that job is that, he needs to get that shooting numbers up. And as much as that defense would be really good, I wonder if he'd be better coming off the bench. So I've sort of wondered if Aaron Nesmith would be a sort of maybe a little bit of a surprise potential at that starter spot. And I still think he is, but until we see how he looks during preseason games, it's hard for me to judge, just how much progress he's made, how much of an impact, he's showing and whether he's making the coaches think about that. It might come down to how it just looks in those games. It can look great in practice going up against the team you have, but until you see it against other real NBA competition out there in the heat of battle, I wonder what it'll look like. Now, look, Al is a proven NBA starter, a former All-Star. He's had some time here last season getting ramped down in Oklahoma City to get healthy. I am curious to see how he looks and what he has left in the tank at age 35. He's certainly, as you guys, if you listen to the last episode of the Celtics Talk podcast heard, he is invigorated about this upcoming season. He's rested and healthy because Oklahoma City, again, by ramping him down and just letting him focus on getting healthy, he feels really good going into this season. So, my curiosity though is just how does he pair if you do go with Al and Rob as your starting front court. So when Al was here the first time and they played him a lot at power forward, he had Aaron Baines back there, more of a traditional backline center bruiser. It worked because they kind of pinged and ponged off of each other. Not to say that it can't with Rob, but it's just different, can Al still space the floor? Can he still shoot a high percentage from three? What does that mean for Rob as a passer? Can they both be in the high post and facilitating? I wonder if there's just a little bit of redundancy there. And I wonder how it will work defensively. And, is Al quick enough to guard fours still? Or do you have to put Al on fives defensively and let Rob go over and take the fours? So, look, Ime Udoka, he's got that background as a defensive minded coach. I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out. But I think I need a preseason game to get a better gauge. And I do, I keep coming back to this and maybe I don't mean to be flip about it, but I think we're still all like a little bit scarred from last season. The two big lineups just did not work. Those Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice lineups. Sorry. I almost passed out from having to think about having to watch those again. I think I'm a little skittish about two big lineups going into this year, but there's no denying that, there's no denying that this guy wants to see Rob Williams out there. And if that means you can find a way to play him with Al Horford and that can accentuate the Jays, then by all means, the Celtics should roll with it. But very curious. I'm eager to see games. Celtics got a day off here. It's Friday when we're recording this. The team has just an optional shoot. So a chance for the guys to catch their breath as they start to ramp up towards that game action after 3 days of camp. Other things that have stood out, we've seen Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder working a lot after practice, 3-point battles. Every day they're kind of going at it, and it's been fun to watch two highly competitive guys getting in those 3-point reps. And again, if those guys are going to be out there and play big minutes for this team, they've got to get those shooting numbers up and keep them up. in order to maximize the time they will spend with the Jays on the court, because the Jays are going to just command so much attention. It's going to create open looks for so many guys, and the Celtics players that are out there with them have to be ready to knock them down and take advantage of it, at least far more than they did last year. Now, again, Jayson and Jaylen got to go to another level as playmakers and find ways to help each other and to create shots beyond just those 3-point looks for everybody else. But certainly intriguing to see what it looks like when we finally get to dive into game action. The other big storyline in New England this week, Tom Brady's back, right? And so it's funny, I kept saying Tom used to, I think he came to a couple Celtics games, sat courtside. It was always a big deal at whenever Tom Brady is in the building. But the big Celtic Tom Brady connection, of course, is when they took him to the Hamptons in 2016, trying to recruit Kevin Durant. And that snapshot that emerged of, I mean, what a crew. We had Danny Ainge decked out with Kevin Durant shoes. You had Tom Brady in full Hampton regale with the white pants, jean button downs, Boston approved scally cap. You had the Celtics owner Wick Grossbeck and Steve Pagliuca down there. You had Kelly Olynyk with his long flowing hair. You had Marcus Smart, who still had the two-tone hair. Maybe you should bring that back this year where him and Schroeder can go with that old Demolition Man stripe. And Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder were down there. But it's hard. It's easy to forget. I mean, only 5 years ago, but the Celtics were in a different spot then. They were sort of that spunky overachiever, and Brad getting the most out of those groups. They were trying to get into the position to title contend. The night before they took Brady to the Hamptons, they pitched Al Horford. And actually, as they were getting set to leave the Hamptons, Al Horford commits to coming to the Celtics, and Boston was just in hysteria because they thought with, bringing Brady down there, maybe there was a chance that Durant would consider them a little bit stronger. Now we know how it all played out. Durant goes to the Warriors, wins a couple titles. Now he's formed another super team in Brooklyn, and it's maybe Boston's biggest impediment to competing again. So back then, Celtics were hoping that Durant and KD might be their duo that led them to another level. No, it's Jayson and Jaylen. But Tom Brady's still playing football. I don't know when he'll stop, but he used to be the face of Boston sports. Feels like Jayson and Jaylen might be taking over that role a little bit now moving forward. So I thought it was fun. You'll hear Brad and Marcus in those interviews talk about going down there. I hope you all jump over to NBC Sports Boston. We got a story going up today with those guys reflecting on it and just kind of, looking back. I mean, again, 5 years. It doesn't sound like a lot of time, but, Marcus Smart was in his second year. Brad was still a coach that we thought would be there forever. Danny Ainge at the helm. And now Al Horford has already left for 2 years and been back. And that was the day they signed him. So it's just crazy how things change in the NBA and how quick everything goes. But Celtics still trying to figure out their best way to the path to title contention. So I don't know if this year's group is going to contend for a title, but I know Brad is bullish on putting together a roster that can compete. He's already had a supremely busy summer. You think about it, from pretty much day one diving in, and then the Kemba trade to get Horford back, overhauling this roster, re-signing Marcus Smart and Rob Williams. I thought it was really interesting to get Brad's perspective on what this summer has been like, what's ahead. He says, you'll hear in here, he's not going to wait. If there are moves to make that can make this team better, Brad Stevens is not going to wait till February's trade deadline or until next offseason to do it. They're going to do it now. The goal is to get back to being a contender as quick as possible. And I think the most interesting thing for me was just off the top, Brad talking about, he didn't know if he was going to be good in this role, but you just kind of got to throw yourself into it. And he needed to change. Maybe the coach of the team had run its course, and getting a chance to take over for Danny Ainge and be in that personnel role invigorated Brad a little bit. And so he's been active early. Let's get into that. You're going to hear from Brad first, and then we'll swipe over to Marcus, some thoughts there, and we'll catch you on the backside. When you took over this new position, what made you think you would be good at it?
I'm not, I think 20 years ago or 15 years ago, as I was a young assistant and in it for the first time and trying to figure out which path you're going to take, I probably had an unhealthy fear of failure. And I think over the last 14 years, probably my greatest area of growth has been, I'm not scared to try it, right? I just want to, it's a great opportunity. It's a good time of life to try something new. It's been invigorating thus far. I enjoy building teams. I'm enjoying the idea of not just having the responsibility of a coaching staff and a team, but everybody in the building. And there's so many talented people in our building, from our stats groups to our front office to our training staff to all the people in basketball operations that just do their jobs well. And I've gotten a great deal more appreciation for how good they are. And so for me, it's been a transition that I've really enjoyed. And we're going to give it our all. I'm going to be myself, and if it goes well, then great. But we're certainly not going to, be scared to try things.
Was there something that made you start gravitating away from that failure? Because I think that's inherent in all of us, right? Like there's not, whether fear of rejection or fear of failure. Like, how did you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think that maybe it's just as you get older, you get a better perspective. And I've been really lucky because I got a chance to coach at Butler at the highest levels in college. I got a chance to coach here at the highest levels of basketball, and so there's a great deal of perspective that I think comes with that if you can navigate the whole journey without losing your mind. And so I think that's probably it. So I'm excited about it. Like, it's been fun. We're having a good time. And again, I wouldn't be able to do it if Mike Zarin wasn't right next to me, and Austin, and all the different people that are, and Allison Feaster, all the different people that I'm in contact with every single minute of every single day.
I was going to say, so what is that like? How much did you lean on them in the infancy? I'm assuming you come in with a lot of ideas of what you can do, but how much is that a luxury to have those guys?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's such a complicated deal with regard to the cap structures and all those things. And so, I'm calling every day, right? I'm calling every day to try to get an expedited education. And I was here for 8 years and relatively in some of these discussions, but never in the discussion of you've got to call somebody and say, yes, we're doing this deal, yes, we're trading this person, or how does the money work in every which way, how do the exceptions work, all of those things. So without all of them, without our great programmers, and our analytics group, I wouldn't have been able to quickly assimilate as I was. So it's a total credit to them. And Danny had set that up, right? Danny had set up a really streamlined, functional group. And so that was a huge help for me.
Have you thought about how you'd like to structure the front office moving forward? Would you like to see more voices in there? And one of my curiosities has been, Allison has sort of rocketed up your organization. How much has it been nice to be able to lean on her input as well?
Well, she's done that. She was doing that long before this summer. She does a lot with our team services and our player development and our wellness initiatives, and really the organizational growth aspect of our whole basketball operations. And she's really good at it. She is truly a culture warrior and is on it every single minute of every day. But I think that, just as we build it out, we're just trying to build, just like our team, we've got some really talented people in there. And so we're just trying to bring in people that accentuate that and show great growth opportunity, that are excited about being a part of the Celtics, and, that can add value to what our biggest areas of need are. And so we've been fortunate enough to do that. We've had some recent hires that, I'm sure we'll announce at some point soon that we feel good about. But, we have a lot of good people that have been there a long time.
How excited? So you got thrown right into the fire this summer. Are you excited about, do you start thinking about, my first trade deadline, my first, contract guarantee? Or are you just still locked in on that?
No, I will say this, we did get thrown right into it. And the biggest angst of the summer was the coaching staff, what was going to happen with them. And so it's great to see that a lot of them stayed, a lot of them landed elsewhere in good spots all over the country and the world, and excited for that. But once you got into building the team and trying to figure out how to make the roster the best that it could be, that comes at you in a flurry, right? So you can prepare all you want for draft night, you can prepare all you want for that, free agency and all the people flying off the board. And we were in a little bit of a different situation this year because we were pretty limited free agency-wise. But it was good preparation for what's coming ahead in February. But we're not going to wait till February if we don't need to. We're going to keep an eye on what we need to do to constantly improve. And that's the bottom line. We want to be in the mix and put ourselves in the mix to do good things.
I remember how hard it was for you as a coach when something like the Isaiah trade goes down. Now, the moves aside, but just like because of your relationship with those players, how hard was it for you to jump right in going from a coach to something like having to move out Kemba?
Well, yeah, the Isaiah thing still is like one of the hardest things I've ever been through, and and I would say that probably when I look back, whenever I'm done, it'll still be right, just because of how long he was here, all that he did, and everything else. And then Kemba has a lot of the qualities of Isaiah from the standpoint of his energy, his personality. He's a really good person, and I'm excited that he got a chance to ultimately be where he wanted to be, right? And so, he'll have I think he'll play really well. But from our standpoint, it was more about financial moves, and as I said just now with Mark and Amanda, like we have a responsibility to the organization. We have a responsibility to New England. We have a responsibility to do what we think is best to help give ourselves the best chance to be in the mix. And for me, that was both a short-term and long-term thing. And so getting Al back was great, but losing Kemba's hard. Kemba's a really good player and a great guy.
Well, my kids named our dog Kemba, so they have a little bit of a beef with you.
Yeah, you're not the first person that's told me that. So that's okay.
I mean, they get on. I had said they should have named him Marcus Smart. And I clearly had the right pathway. How in extending Rob and Marcus, I mean, how is that a tough decision, or is that just putting faith in players and knowing that security can help them sort of grow as they take on new roles?
Well, first of all, I think as you look at the market and you watch again free agency period, the contracts that are flying off, some of the extensions, and then you look at, you've got two really good players that make your best players better and can play both of those roles, right? They can be a guy that can do a lot of good things that can really impact winning themselves, but they also accentuate the guys next to them. They do so on both ends. They care about being in Boston. They want to be in Boston. They love to compete. And those are guys at their young ages, and Marcus is still young, even though he's been in the league 7 years, that I think you want to have on your team. And so those were not hard decisions, as we went through them. And I was really happy that we were able to get those done. And I was also really encouraged by their enthusiasm to get those things done because again, they wanted to be here and they wanted to play for the Celtics.
How will Ime Udoka be different from Brad Stevens?
Well, first of all, when you're in coaching, you've got to be yourself. And so all the great qualities that he has, he will soar with. And, from the standpoint of how he'll be different, I just hope he's better. Like I hope that we can, again, I thought that we had a good run, some good teams, and we were able to get a lot out of it, but we ultimately want to go to a different level. And so I'm hopeful that, he and his staff can figure out this team and figure out how to get the most out of them. And I have confidence they will. Very humble. Ime's a great guy. He's warm and demanding. He's got all the good characteristics of a good coach.
Was there one moment in the process where you said he's our guy? Was there just something about him? Was it just the whole confluence of what he's accomplished that?
There wasn't one moment. I would say it's just, and I think that's one of his great strengths. It's more of a consistency over time.
Well, this is a weird one, but Tom Brady's coming back next week. You got to be part of that adventure in the Hamptons when you guys went down for KD. What was that like? I mean,
well, I was fortunate enough. I've been over there a lot. So I was over in the quarterback meeting some with Josh when Tom was there, when Jimmy was there. I mean, that was an amazing room when you think back to it with all the Jacoby. But Tom is a special guy. He's a special competitor. He loves team. I always think, like, if he were just about him, you wouldn't be able to do it this long. Like, it wouldn't be at that level. It wouldn't be all of the residual championships and the residual winning that he's accomplished. He, like some of the best I've ever seen in their different sports, it's about the team and the team's success. And so I'm happy for him, like the rest of New England. When he was playing in the Super Bowl last year, I was rooting for him, and it'll be fun, I'm sure, in Foxborough for him to walk onto that field. And I think that tells you how great he is, right? He decides to go somewhere else, and everyone here is still cheering for him. But I think he's what's good about sports.
What do you remember from, just curious, like walking around the Hamptons? Is it weird, Tom Brady, people looking at you? Like, what is that like?
I was just trying to calm a couple of our young players that were there with us down. No, they were all excited. No, I'm kidding. It was fun. We went out to eat right before and sat in a little corner of a restaurant, and they grilled him with questions. And but it's funny because I was fortunate enough to live in Indy and be around Peyton, see Tom. When those like icons of other sports walk into the building, even with the best players in our league, they draw like ultimate attention and ultimate focus. And I just think there's the respect for, again, their diligence and their consistency, their stamina, and all the things that go into being great.
75th anniversary for the league this year. The Celtics are celebrating a lot of the decades. I'm assuming I know the answer to this one, but is there one player from their history that you either grew up fascinated by or someone that, as you've been immersed in it, that you keep going back to?
I think that's been the beauty of being here. There's so many, and I go back to my first year when, Tommy and we had Bill Russell at the first game, and Havlicek would come into practice, and Satch was around a lot, and on down the line. And I just think that's the special part about being a part of this family. It is so sad that a couple of those names, Havlicek and Tommy, JoJo White, have all passed in this recent past. KC Jones, but they were left a special legacy because of the teammates they were. And because they truly represented the Celtics in this region unbelievably.
What do you think it'll be like to be part of KG retirement night?
I just hope I'm invited to the after party. That's all I care about. No, he's his energy, his enthusiasm, how fun he is. He's been that way since he was a kid, and I can say that because when I was 17, I was playing on a court in Louisville, Kentucky, and he was playing right next to me, and I remember being like, oh my God, that guy is the tallest guy on the court, the best guy by a mile, and has the most energy. That hasn't changed at all, so it'll be fun to celebrate his impact.
All right, two last things. Have you thought about where you'll sit for the season? I know that's weird, but like I'm fascinated by it. Are you going to take Danny's old spot, or like what are you going to do?
I'll be out of the way.
Really?
You won't see me very much. I'll be in there. I'll be around, but
not gonna throw
I'll try. I won't be any place where I'll be an easy shot.
You can go hang out with Zarin up in 319 or whatever.
If I can get a seat up there, if they'll let me sit with them, I'll do it.
And then last thing, I can't get out of here without asking you like a Jaylen and Jayson question. What do you think? And maybe it comes back to Ime, like how he can push them. Like how can they go to another level in your view? And what is it that you impart upon them when you're in your conversation that you want them to take that next step as superstars?
Well, they've made amazing strides the last 4 and 5 years, and in large part due to their own work and the level of commitment that they have. The next steps are way harder. It's way harder to be to go from an all-star to a top 10 player. It's way harder to do that every single night, to be a top 5 player, to be in the discussion for MVPs. Those are big challenges, but I believe in their work ethic. I think sometimes we pair them and talk about them as two, which we should not do. They're very different, but at the same time, I think because of their ascension here together, people tend to do that. But they both have great qualities. I think they both can take those steps, but those steps are not easy, and those steps are not for everyone. And so they're just going to have to keep at it, and I know that they will.
Let's just start with the summer. Like, how did it feel to get that extension and to be back in Boston long term, and to know you're going to be here in Boston long term?
Feels good. Feels really good. I started my career here in Boston. This is like a second home. I grew up here, so being able to continue, my career here, my legacy here is definitely something that that is definitely exciting to me, to my family, and it means a lot. So, to be able to be here with the group of guys that I'm here with as well also helps.
Brad said part when he was, thinking about these extensions, part of it that mattered was that you did want to be here in Boston, and like, how much has this become a home for you?
It's just a second home, literally. Like I said, I've grown up here. I've been in Boston through some of the hardest times of my life. So, Boston definitely has a place in my heart always.
What can you do to help Jayson and Jaylen take the next step in their development?
For me, I see things a little bit differently than everybody else. So, just helping them see what I see at certain moments of the game, just like they're going to help me see what they see in certain moments of the game. So, being able to speak to those guys and really, I guess you can say, pick their brains about things and really have a lot of those moments. Last year we talked, we did film studies, but this year more, try to be as much as we can involved with each other, not just coming to film when we're at the facility with the coaches, but doing it on our own even more and, really, studying the game even more together and learning together.
Are there things that you want to see them progress on? Is there we always hear people say like they need to improve their playmaking or improve this or that. Do you go to them with those things and say, hey, this is how you can take that next step to being an elite player?
Yeah. Like I said, it's not even so much as improving their playmaking as much as more as doing more of it from those guys. They're very great at playmaking, but they're also great at scoring the ball. So, that gets overlooked a lot because of the offensive, screening that they have to take for the team with that load over there. So for me, is just helping them see the times when the playmaking should be done more. And in times where, that they just have to take over the game. So for everybody, those guys, including myself, it's going to take a lot to really, get back on that chemistry and get back on the right path of finding ways to pick apart these defenses and like a Swiss Army knife in different ways.
How will starting point guard Marcus Smart be different from when you didn't always know whether you're going to be the two guard, whether you're going to be filling in for Kemba? How will it be different to be the guy this year in that role?
My whole life I've been a point guard. I was recruited to college as a point guard, came out as a point guard, and never really got to have the point guard role. So for me, just being able to be in my natural habitat and being able to show what I've been able to do all along, just in the right position.
Do you think people don't realize how good, I think for those of us that watch you every day, we see the playmaking, but do you think the rest of the league knows just how good Marcus Smart, the playmaker, is?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the league knows and understands it. And I think that they're glad that they didn't see more of me in the past. But it's a different year, so they're going to have to really, I guess, study for me a little bit more than they probably would in the past on that end, because now I do have the ball in my hand. I was one of the top assist leaders of the team last year. So with that being said, they know that, I can play make and I will play make and I'm capable of it. So I have to guard me a little bit differently this year.
You and Jaylen seem to have a special chemistry. I think I forget the number, but especially at the start of the year, you guys were amongst the highest assist to field goal ratios. Is there something about that relationship that has allowed it to thrive?
Just me and Jaylen's, transparency between each other, when everybody else is, telling me not to do this or don't do that or can't do this, he's one of those guys that's telling me to do it and I can, and, just, building each other up, always talking. And, for me, it's, I like to pass the ball, I guess, on the contrary what people might think over the past, but it's kind of hard to pass the ball when nobody's cutting, So for me, I always told Jaylen, as long as you're moving, I'll find you. And if you do that, you'll get the ball, you get you some easy points. Where you don't have to do it all on your own. So, for him to be able to trust me on that end and vice versa, I think it's shown and we've proven that.
What's it been like getting to know Ime Udoka, and have you got a sense for how things maybe will be a little bit different from Brad, or what could he bring to the organization?
Something new. Brad has been here, 9 years. I've been here 8. So to be able to have something new that the league, hasn't really seen from the standpoint of him as a head coach. Everybody, I think they kind of picked up on Brad a little bit. Although Brad, still changes the game with the way he comes in and he does things, even though teams know that he's going to do certain things. So just to have a new approach, a fresh face, a fresh start, I think Ime is going to be able to bring that to the team and just give a new revamp on this Celtics team.
How weird is it for Brad to go from your coach right to being the guy who's talking to you about your next contract extension?
Extremely weird. It's extremely weird, but we're proud. We're happy for Brad, and we wish nothing but the best for Brad and his family. So, if he felt like that was the right move, we're excited for him, and that's all that matters. So, but it definitely felt weird.
You mentioned last year that it was just both because of like the injuries and COVID restrictions, and then just stuff away from the court. Like, how hard was last season for you just to kind of put the focus on basketball?
It was tough. It was tough, not just for me, but everybody on this team, in the league, dealing with something, that nobody else is dealing with things that nobody knew that they were dealing with. So it was tough, but that's part of it. You learn how to deal with those things. You try to take care of yourself first, mentally, and to be able to help others. So it was tough, but you learn from it. You take the lessons that you need to learn from it, and you move on.
You were in the Hamptons with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's coming back next week. Just what was that like, getting to meet him in that situation and getting to, I get to pick his brain a little bit?
It was unreal, to hear him talk, to hear him, his mentality and the way that he thought was incredible, and to be able to get that firsthand was a unique opportunity. So I advise anybody who's had the opportunity to talk to him, sit there and listen, and just, I don't care how long it takes, sit there and listen to him.
Was there something you wanted to take away from him? Like, what do you remember most from the conversation?
Just his mentality. He wasn't always the best player, and he was told this and that, and look at him now. He's come out and probably one of the greatest to ever do it in that position and in that sport. So just got to keep going.
All right. I thought it was interesting. The Marcus part, I wish we had more time. We had people invading the room. You might have heard the door open at one point, because these guys had to shuttle from station to station. But Marcus had just sort of started opening up a little bit. And, he said at the end of last season that had a lot of stuff going on in his family and the whole COVID thing and just the weirdness of last season. It really conspired against the Celtics. Now, they've all said, too, like they can't use that as an excuse. Last season was weird for everybody, and teams found their way to grind through it better than the Celtics did. But you get the sense that, all that being removed and the fact that Marcus now has his new contract, you wonder if it's possible for these guys to sort of accomplish what they didn't last year. And I'm just really intrigued to see how this mix of guys and this crew and with Marcus setting the defensive tone and getting the chance to be the quarterback of this team, how it might look different this year. And then the Brady stuff, I just think it's so funny. Like, here Brad said, just trying to calm down the Kelly Olynyk's of the world as they get a chance to meet Tom Brady on that recruiting trip. Look, enjoy Sunday Night Football. You can check it out, NBC Boston, NBC 10, NBC Sports Boston. You get all your pregame highlights and stuff like that. Enjoy the Brady weekend. Enjoy the Pats. And then remember, it's like we're all the basketball people. Celtics games are starting, and Celtics Talk will be ramping up. I'll get some guests. We'll start talking about what we're seeing out there. But I hope you enjoy those interviews. Check us out on our YouTube page to watch those. Check us out on your favorite podcasting app. As always, go like, subscribe, do all that. Leave some comments. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.